Welcome to Google Weekly.
Welcome, my name is Bjorn Berendt, and this is the Google Weekly Podcast, which is part of the AskBG.net network of EdTech services. Never stop learning. This is episode 10, Learning Management Systems, with Superintendent Dan French, recording January 3rd, 2012. This is the first show of the new year. I'm hoping everybody had a safe New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I know I had a blast. My daughter spent the night at her head over heels, her gymnastics, and she loved it. It's funny that my 4-year-old had New Year's plans and I didn't. I did wake up my wife around midnight to give her a kiss, but it was a nice, relaxing, great vacation. I couldn't have asked for anything more. I got to spend it with my two wonderful girls. And on to the show. Well, we have a great show for you today. Later in the show, I have an interview with Dan French, who is the superintendent of Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union in Manchester. And he is also the president of the Vermont Superintendents Association. So he is talking about learning management systems and how he's taking a new look at how student data is collected and managed. But before that, so what's new in Google? Again, what I found, I think, around the Thanksgiving break is that Google seems to slow down around holidays. I'm happy to hear that. So I'm assuming a lot of them went on vacation and just getting back. So I'm guessing next show is going to be bombarded with a lot of new stuff that is coming out. But what is new? There was an older one talking about new APIs in Google Apps. And for those of you who don't know what APIs are, they are little things you can run. They're command lines. So this is a very techie tip thing. So if you're a teacher, ignore this. You won't need to know this. But there are several new APIs that can do auditing, admin settings, single sign-on, and different reporting right from command line tools. The other things that you can kind of do with these other APIs, not necessarily the new ones, the ones that have been established in the past, but you can create users, suspend users, you can retrieve a list of users, move users, get details about your users, you can add and remove groups. So these are little command line tools that you can use, and as of 12/21, there was a few other ones that have been added to the list that you can use. Moving on, what else is new? You know, I saw the coolest thing. I'm sitting here with my family. I don't know if I just don't watch enough TV or what, but I finally saw a Google commercial in Vermont. I just don't remember which one it is. So to try and jog my memory, I went online to YouTube to see what other commercials were out there. And what they are doing is they're really pushing Google+. They have the newest one that I saw, and one of the newer ones that I saw that I really liked was the Muppets. Muppets rock out Google Plus Hangout. I'll put it in the show notes, but that is a Google Plus promo with the Muppets. Can't go wrong there. Can't tell that I'm a dad. Okay, moving on. And yeah, that's pretty much the new stuff. There was, regular release slates, the APIs, and I saw a commercial. So without further ado, let's get into the interview with Dan French. Welcome today. I am here with Dan French from Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union. I've actually known Dan for quite a while. I met him at, it was the Free and Open Source Vermont Conference, and it was the one where you did the keynote speaking. Do you remember doing that?
Yeah, could be, yep.
That was the first time I actually got to see Dan. I don't think I actually got to talk to him during that conference, but it was a great conference. It was a lot of fun. And Dan is the superintendent for BRSU, which is one of the other schools in Vermont. He's been using Google Docs for how long, Dan?
We're coming up on our 4th year. Actually, we just passed our 4-year anniversary. Yep.
I think I've been using it for just as long personally, and I love it for schools. And today you want to just talk about learning management systems and student information systems. in what your school is doing, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we, it was interesting in our, one of the key variables for our district is that we don't have our own high school, which was a key variable as we started talking about moving towards a single student information system. And like many Vermont districts, we're sort of a loose confederation of districts, not necessarily a single entity, and we're looking at trying to achieve a single student information system. One of our districts had Power School. I had other districts using Web to School, which is sort of a regional product, and one using OpenSys. And the one that was using Power School was hosting that on a Mac server, and they were told by Power School that since they had moved the back end of that to, I guess, Oracle, that they were going to have to move to a Server 2008 or a Windows environment, and that was not something they really wanted to do. So that was something we had to consider. And as we got into that conversation, and I've spent I've done several SIS implementations, so I'm not a stranger to the what's involved, and we started to have a conversation about really what do we want a SIS to do, and particularly since we don't have a high school, because if you look at what a SIS like Power School might do, a better part of its functionality is more of sort of a high school perspective in terms of building master schedules, GPA, and things like that we really, we don't do in the elementary environment. Mm-hmm. And in the SISs that we did have deployed, we weren't doing discipline with the SIS. We weren't using it for a lot of its functionality. So we kind of looked at that and said, really, is that, how much of an investment do we want to make in this? And as we got further into that conversation, we really realized, particularly since we've been using Google Apps for a number of years, that perhaps the thing that would help us the most would be putting in a good learning management system. We had also deployed a portal system, School Fusion, that resolved the issue of having a good portal structure, but it came with some basic LMS kind of functionality in that, teachers could upload homework assignments and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we were really running into a lot of issues as teachers were pushing the boundaries of what that system could do in terms of sharing information and, collaborating across district boundaries. It really wasn't structured in that kind of manner. So we decided that we would probably be better served by putting in a LMS, or a good quality learning management system, that would support a sort of a viral or social approach to professional development and sharing as teachers deployed their teaching and learning materials online. So as we looked at the student information system, we were looking at possibly putting a greater emphasis on a learning management system. And that's indeed what we did. We ended up going with a system called Haiku, Haiku learning system. And, one of the ways we came across that system is we started looking at applications that were strongly embedded with Google. And I think Haiku had come out with, something in the Google Marketplace that allowed us to take a look at it. And it's a single sign-on, if you will, with Google.
So that shows up under the More when you click on More and goes right in.
So across you, right. You if you have an account in the system, you can get into it directly across your toolbar. Yeah, and that seems to work out pretty well. And they have a separate login for like your parent accounts and so forth, that they can go right into a portal page and log in with their external email and password.
Hey, great. This started because we were trying to do the same thing at our school, and I think you and I met along with my principal, and everybody got together. So I love the emphasis on the learning management system. I mean, just learning management system seems more educational.
And that's exactly, that's what I'll say. I mean, doesn't it make sense? If you look at all the different kinds of systems you could put into a school district, wouldn't it make sense that we would have one entitled Learning Management System, dedicated towards our core business of teaching and learning, And the Student Information System, likewise, that name implies, I call, sort of a compliance function. And, I think, we were looking at, once again, largely because we didn't have a high school, that we were determined, sort of a political approach, if you will, that we were not going to let compliance functions direct our teaching and learning. And we understand the environment we're in, No Child Left Behind Act, etc. But we were, determined not to let that overshadow what we wanted to see happen on behalf of kids.
Determined not to teach to the test.
Well, yeah, but not to let the, and it's more than I think, as you know, some of these SISs can really take on a weight of themselves, and especially inside of many Vermont districts where, you don't have a lot of tech folks, and they become, if you were to map out your tech staff's time, I mean, a SIS becomes like a major focus of their work.
Yeah,
And I would argue that's probably not what you want to see those people doing. You'd rather have them working with teachers and kids as opposed to managing CSV imports for the state attendance report.
Yeah, I remember in Middlebury when I was up there, I believe there was a dedicated person just to run Power School.
Yeah.
And I know we have, I think, Rediker here at our school, and there's things about it where, yes, it can do the master scheduling, but when it comes to being inside the classroom, it doesn't fulfill the need for the teacher.
Yeah, and it's folks will characterize Adam Provost always says this very nicely. He's like, schools are moving from a corporate IT environment to an educational IT environment, and back 20 years ago, the corporate IT approach prevailed inside of learning organizations. So student information systems make more sense from that lens. This is from a corporate compliance mentality. Wouldn't it be great to have all our data in a database and do transactional things with it and so forth? But if you view it from where we are today in terms of the socialization of learning and what technology can do along those lines, the SIS absolutely can pull you in the total opposite direction. So I think that's why you see a lot of student information systems adding on and becoming LMS-like, and you see LMSs trying to serve the SIS function. But it is a challenge for decision makers today because you're so much more emphasis being placed on compliance reporting from the federal government. So to be able to navigate that is not an easy thing. I think it certainly helped us not to have our own high school.
Yeah, I can imagine because we have a high school, but we started a one-to-one deployment, and the student information system just does not really help in that situation. Where I need teachers to be able to post assignments, create discussion groups, and create calendars and any number of things. And that's just not what the student information system is for. And that's why we're bringing in a learning management system.
Right.
And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the emphasis on that for any of the training and anything else, and really try and pull away from the student information system. Being a high school, I don't think we can do it 100% because we still need that master scheduling. But
yeah. And we ended up going, we use this thing called Jupyter SIS, which is it's certainly a SIS, but it's a lightweight SIS, and doesn't have some of those other, you can't build a master schedule it very easily with it. But I think, it's interesting to consider, how these systems sort of take on a life of their own inside the organizations. And you have to be very, I think, judicious of careful in deciding which systems you deploy and which systems you don't. And I'm sure, like with your teachers, we had a lot of folks, with our portal system, School Fusion, very frustrated. They wanted to do a wiki with kids, and they would go off and, use some open platform on the web to do wiki functions with kids, and you had other people going off to all kinds of people were in all kinds of different websites as these things popped up, Schoology or something like that, and which is fine to a point, but there's a disadvantage to not having everyone in the same system in terms of then you don't have people talking together, sharing information, sharing approaches. You have individual teachers going off on their own and taking kids on a platform on their own, which is legally presents some challenges, but more to the point, they're not sharing, and they're not sharing expertise. They're not learning together, so it really diffuses, I think, an organization's ability to move forward using technology if everyone's doing their own thing in different ways. And there's pros and cons to every system. So the rationale that, this system's so much better than the other one really doesn't stand up to justify an individual teacher taking, their class off on a different direction when most, if you put in one of these high-functioning LMSs, they do everything in a single system pretty much. And it really, I think the stronger consideration needs to be keeping people together inside the same ecosystem so they can share knowledge together and grow that knowledge.
Okay. Well, in looking into systems, what were some of the things that you were looking for, and how did you go about finding a system, or what was the process with that?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. We had I've got a guy working with us, John Dawson, who worked up at CVU, Champlain Valley Union High School, and he's got a really good vision for this stuff and has a lot of experience. So his title is Director of Instructional Innovation. I put him sort of in charge of leading this. And, certainly between the two of us, we had fairly extensive experience working with student information systems. That really wasn't a concern per se, but we wanted to, particularly as we identified the LMS as sort of probably the bigger target. And, we kept referring to this idea of what I was just talking about, this idea of socializing professional development, that folks need to be connected, need to network laterally, I call it, and that one of the important criteria of an LMS is that it's highly social and it's easy to use, so people can share information. Teachers, if a grade 4 teacher posts something up in math, a unit or something, that should be shareable with other grade 4 teachers. This ease of use, the social thing, became a primary consideration. And once we kind of realized that, we decided that we would take a systems investigation identification process based on those same parameters. So John, or JD as he's known, built out Google sites. We organized tech group and other teachers, but they largely used some of the same tools that we were going to emphasize inside the LMS to identify a system. So they were using online tools, Google Moderator, for instance, Google Sites, other things to really go through some criteria to identify, what are the things we're really looking for and what do we want the systems to do. So I think that was a good approach. I can't say it was overly successful because at the end of the day, someone needs to make the decision, and that always was up front, reserved for my authority. But I found the feedback of the group very helpful, and organizationally set the tone for what we were trying to do in terms of implementation of a new system.
Hey, it's a great way to approach it. Teachers got to give their opinion, and yeah. So how about how long have you had this implemented now?
It's been out in the school since the beginning of the school year, so it's been 4 months or so. Certainly the rollout, I think the purchasing decision was made probably last May, and the rollout started there at that point, but the actual, actually using it in the schools, it's really just started the school year.
And do you have any requirements for everybody?
In terms of usage of the system, or what are those boundaries? Is that what you're asking? That kind of.
I guess the expectations and.
Yeah. I think it's. I think it's been important that we're very serious. I think from top to bottom in the organization of what the power of this kind of system can be. So I mean, I had 2 basic non-negotiables, and once again, this is in the context of typical, I'd say, Vermont Supervisory, and where we have a loose confederation of districts. We work together in some ways more so than others, but there's a strong tradition of independence in Vermont. So it's not I can't coerce districts necessarily to behave a certain way, but I can kind of provide leadership, but it's a challenge. And I think where we have been, organizationally, we've been navigating that for 4 years or so, and we're certainly in a place where this makes more sense, where we can start to have those conversations. But my 2 non-negotiables were, firstly that everyone has to use the system. I wasn't saying you had to use it to do all your classes, what have you, but this issue I talked about earlier about people going off and using other systems, I was going to really draw that line. I said, I don't want you doing that. I want your energies to be put into this system. It's we've decided, we've looked at criteria, we think the system is robust. We want you to be empowered to use it, go forth and play with it and have fun doing it. But so for me, the number 1 non-negotiable was you can't go outside of the boundaries of the system to do things. The second one had to do with the student information system, because one of our first targets was a centralized report card. How would we do that in a single student information system? And remember, we had 3 or 4 student information systems, so this was a very practical consideration that had to be addressed right up front, and the way I phrased it was everyone needs to get the report cards coming out of the single system, and that wasn't in the case in some of my schools where they had student information systems already. They weren't necessarily using, not all teachers were using a student information system to generate report cards. So we had all kinds of things going on. We still had manual report cards going on. So to actually get people into a system that would automate the reporting, but also then to say, yeah, and not only that, we're going to try to achieve more or less a common approach to what the grade reports look like, was a very significant challenge. So that worked out pretty well. I was very pleased, and it took a lot of effort on the part of building principals and the teachers to kind of give and take on that, and but it did come together. But I think the other message was, which enabled them to, I think, let go of I would say some of the more traditional approaches to report cards, was that we started to be able to articulate as people played inside the learning management system that within a matter of weeks that we identified that really some of the things we can do with an LMS are so much more robust and best practice in terms of assessment, in terms of documenting student learning, that we really wanted to go there. We wanted people to be doing that better kind of documentation of student learning, as opposed to hanging on to this sort of industrial era kind of reporting, which is what a report card is. Why do we have report cards, right? So, and what's the importance of a report card if a parent can in real time see how their student's doing? So I think we kind of set our expectations pretty low in the report card. We said, listen, we're just navigating a transition time. We really don't want you to spend a lot of time on coming up with fancy report cards. We want to spend more time getting content into the LMS, getting kids into the LMS, and figuring out better ways to document student learning, and ultimately moving towards more of an e-portfolio kind of approach inside that system.
Yeah, I think I remember that. I don't know who mentioned the term at our last meeting, but organic data. That was the term that my principal just kind of latched right onto. It's like it clicked for him when he heard that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, we've been around report cards. I mean, it's hard to, document, all the things that led up to that final grade. And, in high schools, if you had a high school grade book, you'd say, well, here are the things that added up. But, the implications, I think, of an LMS, particularly at the elementary level, is that you now have a more robust, significantly more robust tool to document student learning. We have to create the structures inside the LMS so that can be valid documentation. This idea of rubrics and peer-led definitions of what is quality work, meaning peer-led, meaning teachers across schools deciding this is exemplary work or this isn't exemplary work, and creating those common rubrics and figuring out efficient ways to assess and store that information. And that's the power of the LMS, I think, ultimately, particularly for the elementary level. So it's very exciting.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to this. One of the other positions I just picked up is I'm going to be working with Stockbridge Elementary School. So I'm very much following what you're doing, even at the elementary school level.
Yeah, great.
And so, great things with the learning management system versus the student information system. I know you're definitely a leader in Vermont. There are many people that follow you, and is there any any blogs or anything you'd like to promote? And
I think the thing I've been working at a little bit, I know you've picked up on. I mean, I think as Vermont's such a small state that I think we can do a lot to network amongst ourselves across district boundaries much more effectively than we are. I mean, I've been a fan, for instance, of a single hashtag on Twitter for Vermont-Education events. Simply VTED. As opposed to having a hashtag for dynamic landscapes or BRSU, or you can certainly do those things, but 9 times out of 10, most of what we're posting, I think, would benefit from more broadly disseminating that information. So I've been a fan of that kind of approach. So anytime I can, I say, hey, let's have a single hashtag. And likewise, I think what were you using for social bookmarking? I've arrived at Diigo. I think that's how you pronounce it, Diigo or Diigo.
Yeah, I use Diigo. I use Diigo a lot. Mostly, I actually use it for my college classes that I was taking. So for any paper, just the annotation features of that just made it amazing. And the other part that I've been using Diigo for is the groups.
Right.
Because you can subscribe to different groups. So I get a lot of my information just being subscribed to different groups. And I have to toot my own horn here with the Google podcast. I actually submitted the podcast to one of the groups, and I watched my user count like jump up like 5 times. So people are on those groups, and they're listening, and it's a great way of getting information. So
yeah, so we have a Vermont-Education group, and I think we've got about 12 members, but I've been trying to promote that more and more, and it's I think it is. There's more need for, particularly, I work largely with leaders, to get leaders on those kinds of technologies, because it's by far and away a more efficient way of disseminating information. And I was on it today. I was reading a New York Times op-ed from Diane Ravitch. Very interesting, just to push that stuff around and hear other people comment on it. So I think we need to do more of that kind of thing. So that's what I would promote.
Okay, so I'm actually looking for it right now, but I'll jump on it I'll put it in the show notes so we can get people on it. But yeah, I love that hashtag. I used it at Vermont Fest this year, sitting in, and there's 2 sessions I wanted to attend at the same time, and I think Bonnie, who is always on Twitter. If you're from Vermont, you know that name, and follow her on Twitter. And she was tweeting the other class while I was tweeting the one I was in. And it was great because we were just collaborating back and forth, sharing information about what we're learning in each one. So I love that broad hashtag. It worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, once again, we're so small. It's, to establish a separate hashtag for each major conference. I don't know. I think it's better to do one, but it doesn't preclude people from using others, certainly. But
No. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last thing because right after this, I'm going to jump into an app exploration. I'm pretty sure right now the app from the marketplace is going to be Haiku.
Okay.
I'll talk about that, unless you have another one that's a favorite. And I also and I also pull from the Chrome Web Store. I kind of play around in there. Do you have like a favorite app from the Chrome Web Store?
Not really. I think I was tweeting out the other day. We're looking at doing some Chromebook deployment. I'm not sure. We're not convinced yet. That's a device we want to try, but I've certainly been playing around more with the web store. But not really. What kind of apps in there do you like?
Let's see. There's a nice equation editor, typing. There is some Autocad.
Really?
Yeah. They're basically just links to websites, but they're usually the HTML5, the program ones. I'm going to call it the, Web 3.0 type of programs. If that is truly a term yet, I don't know.
Yeah. I just added Autocad WS.
Yes,
which looks like Autodesk. Yeah, look at that. Wow, that's pretty cool.
So I've been trying to find out different little apps out there in the Chromebook in the Chrome Web Store and see if anybody likes it. Okay, well, I'm going to conclude the show then and I thank you very much for coming on. We'll have to.
Hey, anytime.
I'll have to get you back next year and see how it goes with year 2 of this deployment.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and never stop learning.
Yeah, have a good day.
Okay, that was a great interview with the superintendent of Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union here in Vermont. His name is Dan French. I will check back with him next year and see how the program is going. I know the school that I work for is also adopting a similar model. So you'll be hearing more about learning management systems in the weeks to come. Now on to the app exploration part of the website. The learning management system, and keeping with the theme of learning management system, the one that BRSU is using, and it's one of the ones that I've evaluated for our school, is called Haiku. I have used this, and I've helped some of his teachers out in Bennington-Rutland, and so I got to play around with this and work with some teachers on it, and this is a really great system. You can go into the app marketplace and add it in. It costs $48 per user. It is very, very well integrated in the Google Apps marketplace. For example, you can, when you go to submit homework, A lot of learning management systems are still into the idea of, well, give us the file, where this Haiku will actually go in and says, well, tell me which Google Doc you have. And it'll go in, you choose the Google Doc. It'll automatically change the permissions so it's shared with the teacher and it moves right along. So it works very well integrated in the Google products, Google Apps environment. Again, it's $48 per user. Great tool. On to the Chrome Store app of the year. I know Dan said he quickly went through and downloaded Autocad, so I thought I'd just quickly go take a look at Autocad. This is a full web-based CAD system. It is got some very good reviews. I mean, we've got 4.5 stars here, 426 reviews, 200,000 users with this Chrome store. So it's pretty amazing what you can do. And I'm looking at this. It looks like a very two-dimensional CAD system, but it looks very well built. When you launch the app, it doesn't actually launch a CAD app, an HTML5 app. It actually just goes to the Autocadws.com website where you basically create an account. So I haven't created an account, but it is a quick little link to AutoCAD. It is looks like a really nice program that you can use with your students. This does look free. I didn't see any cost associated with this. And to the details, just quickly looking, upload files, edit drawings. No, I do not see a cost associated with this. But again, CAD system, web-based CAD system, that's amazing that you can start doing the stuff that computers needed to be. I remember having to buy CAD, computers for CAD software, and I had to buy like the best computers you could ever get just because the CAD software would take so long to render and so long to work with. And here's a nice web-based one. So again, that's autocadws.com. Well, that's going to conclude the show for today. So thank you for listening to the Google Weekly podcast. You can follow the podcast by going to www.google-weekly.net. We are on iTunes. If you have an Apple product, you're welcome to sign us up for iTunes. We also have an Android mobile. I also have an Android mobile app out there that you can follow the show with. Please check that out. If you'd like to contribute to the show, I have a Twitter handle. I guess it's also a Twitter or Google Plus handle. That's hashtag GWPodcast. I have a Google group out there, which which kind of like works like a listserv. So everybody who is signed up for the Google group will get all the everybody else's responses. A great way to talk about the podcast and the different things. I'd love to hear from you. You can go to Google Plus. I have the Google Plus page. And as always, you can comment on the post. Again, thank you for listening and never stop learning.
This is Torrance, and thank you for listening.